Hello everyone, I'm Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
And today we're going to tell you how we felt about Interstellar, the brand new movie from Christopher Nolan. Brandon, why don't we just jump straight into things? Tell us a little bit about Interstellar.
Alright, Interstellar follows the character of Cooper, played by Matthew McConaughey. He starts out as a farmer, but we soon learn that he was a former engineer and basically all-around scientist, as much as I can tell, who used to work for NASA. And
it seems like trained to be an astronaut.
Yes, I believe he was training to be an astronaut. He was training for a particular mission, a mission that, for all he knew, never happened.
Right.
It appears that the government is pretty much, at the beginning of this movie, we learned it's pretty much shut down and that the people wouldn't even have supported the NASA had they known it existed.
Yeah, that's right.
So it follows his character as he learns the importance of what's about to come and to, as the trailer says, try to save the world.
I thought it was kind of fun, Brandon, to make NASA itself a conspiracy.
That was really funny. Really interesting.
Because there's all this talk toward the beginning about the conspiracy of the moon landing and how history has been rewritten.
That was a lot of fun,
I thought that was really interesting, and makes a lot of sense where people are. And the whole idea is they're impeding progress without really realizing it.
Without realizing it, and also that there are people in the world who are really like that. And if that just continued to snowball, they might get to a state that was like that.
And it's about prioritization, right? It's, well, if we're trying to keep ourselves alive, then what good is space travel?
Exactly.
And I think a lot of the point of the whole movie ultimately is our ability to innovate, and technological progress can be the thing that would save us, right? I mean,
that's interesting. I think you've hit on. I think the government created its own NASA conspiracy to be the conspiracy to hide NASA.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's a new way of looking at it that I hadn't thought about.
That was the big idea I latched onto, that the human condition is moving. Is like moving us toward progress, kind of. I don't know. Anyway, how did you feel about Interstellar?
This movie made me feel like I was learning old science for the first time ever.
Oh, that's really interesting.
Yes, it showed me things like. I'll give you a little bit of background. I love black holes. I love looking up at the sky. I love seeing out there. When I go out into the countryside and it's dark, there are no lights for 10 miles around, and you look up, you can see so far. It's mind-boggling. So this was amazing, and for a long time I've tried to visualize in my head just what a black hole would look like.
Yeah.
In addition to artist renderings and things like that. This movie showed me something I could not have imagined.
Yeah, something
now that I've seen it,
yeah,
I fell in love with the cinematography in this movie, and even the CGI and whatever they were doing. Wow.
It's all super well integrated. You know that Christopher Nolan likes to go practical as much as humanly possible.
Indeed.
This is probably the most CG he's ever had to use, because to do some of the stuff that you're doing in space,
obviously
you would have to.
That's true, but I wonder how much
I'd love to know how much is practical.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway, like the science in this movie, for all that I know about science, was pretty spot on. I enjoyed the talk about relativity in this movie. To an nth degree, if you will.
Yeah, and that's a thing that science fiction, at least in film, hasn't tackled as much as I would like it to. That's a thing that I've always found myself kind of wishing that Star Trek would handle more often than it does.
Yeah.
You get like one Token Voyager episode about it, and I mean every now and again, there's something, but Trek kind of, and I think a lot of other science fiction properties kind of have their workarounds for not having to deal with the whole, there are places that if you landed on, the time outside would move at a different rate than the time there on the planet.
And the only time I can think of where they did that was in Voyager.
Like I said, there's kind of a Token Voyager episode about it. And ironically, not the episode called Relativity. That's about time travel.
That's right.
But with this, it kind of science fiction is all about the what if statement.
Yes.
And this kind of did a really good job of asking that question of lots of what if statements in this, but one of them is how would people handle that? You know what I mean? Like how would people on an individual emotional level handle those different ages? It's interesting because I kept thinking of of Flight of the Navigator, because Flight of the Navigator deals with it.
One of my favorite movies.
But I haven't seen a whole bunch of stuff tackle it, and you kind of wonder why. So I really appreciated that, because that's the thing that you'd have to contend with.
Well, what's interesting is this movie. There were a few places in this movie where it seemed like part of what the characters were telling to each other was actually dumbing it down for the audience. However, the end of what they were saying actually ended up paying off in a real way, that I could buy that the character who was this scientist could actually have asked that question.
Yeah, I mean,
so that was really nice.
I still think sometimes it does feel a little bit spoon-feedy, but you're right. It's not terrible.
It's not hugely terrible, so it wasn't an immediate deal breaker for me.
It doesn't happen a ton. Favorite thing, least favorite thing.
My favorite thing about this movie, oh gosh. I'm going to say the science behind this movie is actually my favorite thing. And my least favorite thing, least favorite thing, there were a couple of moments
I know you were impressed. So.
I was very impressed, but a couple of moments that really drew me out of this movie, but it did bring me back into the movie, but it was the whole bringing me out type of thing, and that was basically when it did seem like the audience was being spoon-fed. But then they immediately would correct that for me, so that was my least favorite thing. Another thing that I really, really enjoyed was the soundtrack on this.
Yeah.
And
sound design was a huge thing I wanted to bring up. I thought it was immensely effective. Yeah.
It was terribly effective, and the use of the pipe organ. I know a lot of people have been saying that, and I was like, what could it really be about a pipe organ? I'm a huge fan of pipe organs.
Well, that was a big thing I liked about Watchmen, and I was kind of reminded of the couple of places that Watchmen used that, and it sounds really similar.
Well, when I finally got to see this movie today, wow, that pipe organ was just the right thing for this.
Yeah, and I think what it adds to the kind of ambiance and mystique of this is that it creates all by itself a sense of mystery and a sense of wonder. And that's very much what this movie is about.
Yes, it is. And
trying to tie together the notion of self-preservation and exploration.
Well,
just really interesting.
How did you feel about when the pipe organ would necessarily like fade to strings and all of a sudden just stop?
Yeah.
That was cool.
Hugely effective.
I want this soundtrack.
And there's a couple of places where everything kind of just quits.
Yeah. Just stops dead. And the audience was really good about this movie, you know, just quiet, and you're like, wow. And I'm already an emotional guy, but pipe organs have always brought out even more emotion for me.
Something I wanted to ask you too is I noticed looking over that you seemed pretty emotionally invested, and I wanted to ask you if it was just simply that it was scratching some of those like maybe nostalgic itches for you, or how much of it really was characterization.
It's gonna
because it wants really hard to be an incredibly moving and kind of tug on your heartstrings kind of movie. I don't know that it's always successful at that, and I wanted to know if you did.
It's 60-40 for me.
Okay, all right.
I'm gonna say it's 60% the science and the music, because I'm huge fans of those, and I play the violin, you know, and I love the pipe organ, and it's 40% the characters. And I say 40% because there were those moments where I was drawn out of the movie and lost it, but I know you looked over at me several times, and you can back me up on this. I had tears streaming down my face.
And I have to say that I certainly don't mind saying when that happens to me. It did not happen to me one time during this movie.
Yeah, it just tugged on me a bit differently, you know, background science music. I'm going to say...
But I was curious as to what it was.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking. I'm feeling it. I definitely say go see this one in the theaters. It's made for the big screen. It's...
in exactly the same way Gravity was.
Yes. However, this movie trumps Gravity by a large margin for me.
Not for me.
Oh, really?
Not even. All right.
But
as a visual spectacle, it's what I mean is if you're going to see it, go to the theater. As a visual spectacle, it is a big screen experience.
True.
Brandon, I don't think I have ever seen a movie by Christopher Nolan that I walked out of the theater and knew exactly what I thought. I don't think I've ever had that.
Okay.
I think even Dark Knight, even Batman Begins, one of my favorite movies of all time. Every time I go see a Christopher Nolan movie, I always have a lot to think about, which is the most positive thing I can say. Certainly.
Sure.
This is a very thought-provoking movie, certainly.
Definitely.
And I don't know how I feel about not even where it comes down on things, but just how it gets to some things toward the end. And I just need time to process it. The difficulty with doing a review like this is that we go to the theater, we come back home, it takes us 10 minutes to get back, and then immediately we're on camera. And where I am right now is loved a lot of things about this, do not know how I feel about the last 45 minutes. Last half hour.
That reminds me of something I have to say really quickly.
Sure.
Is, for me, this movie needed every minute that it had.
I don't
was there
think
the
it's too
entire
long.
way. Right.
I don't think
it was too long either.
Regardless of my reservations about the ending, I'm not gonna, and I'm saying reservations. I'm not saying I'm outright criticizing it. I need more time with this movie.
See a second time, maybe?
Yeah, and I don't know that I will in the theater, but I definitely will watch it again.
Call me up, I'll be over.
I feel similarly to the way I did after I saw The Prestige for the first time.
I have not seen that yet. I've always wanted to.
I had a big reservation about that movie, and I wasn't sure how I felt about it at the end. And I kind of have that although with this one, it's bigger, and there's I don't know, there's more of it, and
it's space.
I'm being really cryptic about it because it being the third act, I can't really talk about it.
Right.
This movie, I'm always rubbing my board off on my pants. This movie. This movie left me. This movie left me awestruck, contemplative, and then a little eyebrow raisy at the end. I like it. I loved this through the first hour and a half. And once again, let me say that, and I was on my way to this a second ago, that the issues I have with the ending are not like it's dragging out or anything.
Right.
I really didn't feel like that. I actually think that this movie is really deliberately paced. Some people were complaining about the length. People did that with Dark Knight too, and I felt like it earned it. I feel like this movie earned it.
This movie definitely earned it.
And like Dark Knight had for a lot of people kind of a false ending. This movie doesn't have that problem.
No.
It is. I don't know. People are saying that this movie is, or at least the folks that are criticizing it. I'm hearing a lot of this one is too overly ambitious. I don't know that that's its problem. I don't know. It might be once I come down on that ending. So I really like that it takes its time out the gate to really develop the world and give us a sense of what the problem is with the future. I really like that we get to a little bit about the societal problems and like not just the basic people are about to start starving because we can't make anything but corn.
Right.
But also what that's doing to people socially and how it's changing the way society is functioning, and again what the priorities are.
Right.
You get this sense at the beginning that humanity is in a way almost, and I like that they don't go too far with this because there hasn't been enough time. But on the whole, societally, it's almost as if we're de-evolving.
They're regressing
to the point where we're just kind of, it's sort of our baser instincts, like it's all about survival, and while we're working so hard at trying to stay alive, we're not actually living.
Well, you know,
and then when you get and then sorry, go ahead.
Matt Damon's character brings that out.
Yeah,
absolutely.
When you get to the end of the movie, where things ultimately go seems to be that there is some kind of a correlation between this notion of self-preservation, or that not just the fact that the human can almost unquestionably we are built to survive, but that doesn't preclude the notion of trying to better understand our world. I thought it was a really optimistic kind of message. You mentioned Matt Damon's character, and he has a lot of presence once he comes in. I thought he was great.
I didn't even know he was in this.
You didn't?
I stayed away from this movie like the plague. Like the plague afflicting the cross in this movie.
That's a good idea. So with Damon's character, I noticed something, and started, as I always do, looking at and trying to decipher the meaning behind every proper name in this movie, because as soon as you get to his character, and I won't say too much about who he is in the movie and how he functions, except to say that his last name is Mann.
Yeah.
And he represents...
Oh, I never even thought about that.
His character represents all of the basic instincts of humanity.
Yeah.
And as I looked at that, I started looking at the main character Cooper, trying to figure out what maybe that name could mean, and I won't go into everything, but there's a lot of smart writing just at that level, and I always appreciate that kind of thing.
That's something I might have picked up on a second or a third watching.
I always look for stuff like that.
Yeah.
I thought the robot was fantastic.
Oh, I loved those robots.
He wasn't too much of comic relief. I thought it was kind of funny that they even
no danger, Will Robinson.
made the fact that he was sort of there for comic relief. And I don't know how much he was, but they almost poked fun at other science fiction properties that have the robot for comic relief, because comic relief is built into his programming, and I thought that was really fun.
And you can change the percentage.
You can change the percentage. And
that was great.
Even that idea is used to examine the human condition a bit. I love that. This is, in a lot of ways, really good, solid, classic space science fiction. I saw a lot of things here that I recognized, building on obviously stuff like 2001, but building even on like a Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I mean, I was picking up on a bunch of different things.
On a range of things, yeah.
That inspired it, but that it wasn't just like ripping off. And I like that about it. Brandon, it really takes its time.
Yes, it does.
Like the thing breathes a lot.
But it's in a good way. Very good way.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. I can't decide if it jumps the shark for me or not. When this idea of and it made me think, it made me noodle stuff, and that's what science fiction is supposed to be. This is very idea driven. Sometimes to the point where I kind of wish that the characters were coming alive a little bit more. Like Cooper, I was always with.
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway's character, I don't know yet. I don't know about right now.
You remind me of an issue.
She seemed to. Well, I don't even know how much of an issue it is. I'm just saying that she seemed to kind of serve a purpose, and she was a little too functioning. But then
and flat. Would you say she was a little flat?
I don't know. I just feel like she served so much of a major purpose in the movie that I don't know how much character-wise she ever grew enough out of that. But then part of the problem with even saying that is that in some ways that's kind of the point, because because the movie is postulating this notion, and I'm trying to decide see, I don't even want to go so far as to say sappy. I think that's going too far. I don't know right now. But with her character, we postulate this notion that every emotion and every part of the human condition is quantifiable. That love itself. And anytime characters start saying love with a capital L, I start raising my eyebrow a little bit and go, oh, yeah, okay, how wishy-washy is this gonna get, And
that was probably another small issue that I had. And
where they went with it by the end, I was interested in it. It made me think about stuff, but I don't know how I feel about it.
I was interested, but let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Did you figure out where she was coming from?
Yeah.
That was the issue. It took me a little while, but I realized it later on.
Well, they paid it off at the end.
Yes, they did.
I don't know if you caught that, but where we leave her at the end, they completely pay that off.
Yes, they did.
And so that.
She got her own closure.
As far as the structure of the narrative goes, it's all solid enough that it all kind of comes together. I just don't know what I think of some of the choices in going there, because I was really digging all the let's play with real theoretical physics and stuff, and there's a point where it gets almost too fantastic for my taste.
But that's the point in which I was like, this is the stuff that I've been trying to figure out myself, you know, just to try to visualize, and that's where, and I know exactly what you're talking about, but I was right there. That pulled me in even deeper.
Boy, not me, man. I can't decide what I think of it yet. So that's I don't know. That's where I'm at on it right now. I want to give it another viewing. I'm hearing people saying that this movie has giant major plot holes. I'm not sure what they're talking about right now, and I'm
me neither.
And it's one of those things where it might be somewhat open for debate, because there is one thing in particular with the notion of relativity and getting past the fourth dimension and all of that stuff, that there is a typical, I'm tiptoeing so that I don't give too much away, but there's a there's a kind of typical thing that gets thrown in there that is always problematic when you start dealing with space-time in the way they're doing it. And we'll talk about it afterwards, but
definitely.
But where I was going, okay, see, at this point you can kind of do anything you want to because there are no rules, and that gets really, I don't know, it makes me feel like it's accidentally cheap. I don't know.
A cop-out?
Anyway.
You won't go that far, maybe?
But because it's set up at the beginning and knows it's going there, it's harder to call it a cop-out. Because I've seen other movies where they get to a place and they write themselves in a corner and they go, space-time.
So you're saying they did really well at getting to their conceit?
Yeah, they got there. I just don't know what I think of the ultimate conceit is the thing. And like, I don't know. Premise, conceit, whatever. Anyway, ultimately, I'm gonna say I'm feeling it. I'm glad I saw it.
Yeah?
I'm really glad I saw it. There's a lot of really intelligent ideas and some really good characterization going on here. I think. Once again, never getting enough screen time in things I'm seeing him in right now. I thought John Lithgow was really great.
Oh yeah, I didn't even know he was in that either.
I didn't know he was going to be in it either.
He was so great.
I got excited that he was there. Michael Caine, as always, pretty good. He seems to be in every movie Nolan makes, and I thought that here he was the right guy for this role. He ends up being kind of the opposite side of the equation character, where we have these kind of these kind of big two conflicting notions of what exactly the human condition is and how much it's tied not just to self-preservation but also to preserving the lives of people you care about. Does that empathy spread to the notion of saving an entire planet? Is that just too big for us to get our heads around?
Well, you know what I liked about his character is that when he makes his big reveal to one of the other characters in this movie, I still had to decipher out what he was saying, just like the character did. I really wasn't sure. And then when it became clear, it kind of blew my mind, and I was really okay with that.
And here's the thing. Very little in this movie actually blew my mind. Visually, some stuff. The wormhole especially.
Yeah, that was some good cinematic stuff right there.
And maybe I've just seen way too many movies like this. From the very from almost the very beginning, with the relative time business, when you get the thing with the little girl in her room and the watches and stuff, I knew where it was going from the very beginning. I parsed that out pretty darn quick, and when they and then
now, was that a problem for you?
When they got there, see, I don't know, because maybe I've just seen too many of these kind of movies. I was looking around at the audience, and clearly it got a bunch of people, so it was effective for a lot of folks. But for me, I was like, they're playing this as a giant reveal, and this is exactly what I kind of expected, and was kind of hoping that I would get that it would subvert my expectations on that a little bit.
I was halfway there. I had half the notion about that.
But anyway, I don't know. Obviously, I'm a little bit indecisive on this one. But like I said, really glad I saw it. Everybody, thanks as always for watching. We sure appreciate it. And let us know what you thought about Interstellar if you saw it in the comments. And in the meantime, Brandon and I will be with you again next week with another movie review. I am Captain Logan.
And I'm Brandon.
We'll see you later.